all these bad things are happening. These people are doing this, and this degeneracy, and that corruption, and all this. What can I do? What is in my control? What has Allah given me the power to change? Assalamu alaikum, it's your sister Alexa here, and I did not plan on making this video, but after I saw so much of the commentary around these current events, and also a few other things going on in my life or realizations that I've had, I realized I really need to share my thoughts on this. So we're going to start by talking about the controversy around the Paris Olympics opening ceremony, but that's not actually the main point of this video, and we're going to, from there, go into what I actually want to say. But let's start with the current events and just recap, like maybe you don't know, and in that case, mashallah, if you have not been following the drama, good for you, really. But obviously the opening ceremonies caused a large backlash because a lot of people, in particular American Christians, were accusing the French of mocking the Last Supper and doing a satirical or perverse depiction of the Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper, which of course is a story from the Christian Bible. And of course there were Muslims then who jumped on the bandwagon and said, how dare you mock Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, even if it's of a Christian depiction of him, and in Muslim countries this would never be allowed to mock Christianity this way. And when I first started hearing this information, I felt that this was offensive. I thought, wow, how could they just mock Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him? How could they just mock even the Christian interpretation? Like, this is so bizarre. But then the more I heard, I found out that I don't know if it's the French Olympic Committee or whoever was putting out their excuses and apologies, that the excuse was, this wasn't supposed to be Jesus, this wasn't supposed to be the Last Supper. This is actually a depiction of the Greek myth surrounding Dionysus, the god of wine, astaghfirullah, and that people just thought that it was supposed to be the Last Supper, but it's actually a Greek myth being portrayed. So if that's true, if their excuse is true, if their justification for this is true, that's still bad, in my opinion, because not just because, as a Muslim, I'm like biased against paganism, but because it reveals the inconsistency of French secularism, that French secularism, as we already know, is really just about targeting Muslims. Because they're more than happy to have pagan stories funded publicly, right, and portrayed publicly. So pagan religion is fine. European paganism is fine, but Islam has to be quashed and oppressed by French secularism. So they're being hypocritical, they're being inconsistent, and it's not surprising at all. It's Olympic opening ceremonies are supposed to demonstrate the culture of the host country, and France did succeed in demonstrating its culture. I mean, unfortunately, I wish I could unsee what I saw of the clips that I saw, but there were, cross-dressers and paganism. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good depiction of secular, liberal French culture, or the West in general, but that's not even my main point. So, yes, it reveals the hypocrisy around French secularism. Yes, it reveals the obvious bias that we already know against Islam in France. But that's not my main concern. My main concern is, what are we going to do about it? Are we just going to sit and be outraged and watch content or make content saying, this is bad? Okay, well, we can't change the world overnight. What are we going to do to make a better future? What is our plan of action? If we don't like what's happening now, how are we going to create a better future? Right? This degeneracy that's happening in society, today. I want, and I assume we all want, future generations to be able to look back and say, that degeneracy is an artifact of the past. What were they thinking that they did that? That was a bizarre phase in human history. Right? How do we get to a more wholesome, more family-friendly, more Islam-centered future? How do we create a better world? And for me as a mother, the answer is obviously how I raise my son. And I am not the perfect mother. I am not the perfect Muslima. I am not the perfect daughter. And how I make a better future is to work on myself and to change the things that I have control over. Because I can't change what happens in Paris. I can't change what Olympic committees do. I can't change those things. Of course, we should still, say that things are wrong. We should still, because there's that hadith, forgive me for not remembering it exactly, but if you see an injustice, change it with your hand. If you cannot, then change it with your tongue. And if you cannot, then hate it in your heart, and that is the weakest of faith. Something along those lines. Please forgive me for getting it wrong. And so yes, of course, we should speak out when we see something that's wrong. I'm not saying to just stick our head in the sand and ignore the world, but we can't change everything, and we can't change everything right away. So what are we doing? What are the small steps we can each take? And I want to reevaluate my life and my actions. What am I doing to create a better future? What foundation am I laying for the future? And maybe there are things I need to change about the way that I parent. Maybe there are things I need to change in my own home. I can't change Paris, but I can change my own home. I can change my own approach. And for those who don't have children, how can you contribute, or you don't have children yet, and you may in the future, how can you contribute to a better, more stable, more moral, more pure future for humanity? That could be donating to local or international dawah projects. That could be volunteering for dawah projects, or I don't know, give me more strategies in the comments section. I want to start a conversation around this. What can we do other than dawah, other than parenting? There's got to be even more. How can we, in a positive, productive, safe, peaceful way, create a better, more wholesome, more moral, more Islamic future for the world? There's reevaluating the way we live our life, reevaluating the way we interact with our children and the type of home that we have, reevaluating our own actions and rededicating ourselves to Islam and focusing on solutions instead of focusing on the problem. Because we shouldn't ignore the problems. We need to know what the problems are so that we can choose the solutions, but focusing more on the solution than on the problem. And I sometimes, this is a reminder to myself, sometimes I get so caught up in, oh my gosh, all these bad things are happening. These people are doing this, and this degeneracy, and that corruption, and all this. What can I do? What is in my control? What has Allah given me the power to change? And focusing on the small steps that I can make, whether in my parenting, in my own relationship with Allah, in the way I interact with society. So whether it's parenting, whether it's dawah, what else? What else can we do? We need a game plan. We need a game plan on a personal level. We need a game plan on a social level. How are we as an ummah and as individual Muslims, how are we working towards that future that we want and that the world so desperately needs? Please provide your ideas in the comment section. And I feel like I'm repeating myself as usual, so I will stop here. But brief announcement before we go. There is, inshallah, a new episode of Covered Not Censored coming in the next few weeks. It might take me a while. It's a very busy time of year for me. And also, my smaller channel, I have sort of rebranded or renamed it A Muslim Homemaker's Diary. If you're interested in cooking content, gardening content, that kind of thing, I do, inshallah, intend to start posting on there a little bit more often. We'll see, inshallah. So do subscribe to that as well, inshallah, if you're interested. And thank you so much for watching to the end, mashallah, and until next time, assalamu alaikum.